Hey guys, this is James. I just wanted to talk to you for a second. So, as we talk about at the end of one of our episodes, Steve is going to be out of town in Montana for a little bit. So, this episode runs a little bit long. We are actually going to split it up into multiple episodes, probably at least 2, maybe even 3 episodes. So, some of this might be out of order from how we would normally do things, but stick with us. Thanks. So, Stu, what band is that that's Rush, right, in your bathroom?
Oh, yeah, that's Rush.
Yeah, and you've mentioned before that you really like Rush.
I do.
So who is the bassist for Rush in that photo?
Geddy Lee.
So Geddy Lee kind of looks like my mom.
I think he looks like a lot of people's mom.
Yeah.
Who's the keyboardist in that band?
Geddy Lee.
It's such a
Wait,
talent.
who's the singer in that band?
Oh my gosh, it's Geddy Lee.
What a talent.
So Steve, tell us why Rush is the greatest band ever to be made.
Why they're the greatest band
Yeah.
ever? I mean, so for myself, they are, and I think it's like this with a lot of people, right? Like, there is the band that when you are a young teenager just speaks to you, right?
Yeah, and for me that was Kiss because I wanted girls.
Right. And that was, for me, it was Rush because apparently I never wanted to get laid.
That was the only thing I cared about.
Yeah. But no, man, like they just, I mean, one thing was just the level of musicianship was very exciting for like, I mean, all 3 of them were just like masters at what they did. Philosophically, like they appealed to me. I mean, they're kind of a brainy band.
Like every time I've ever seen like someone who is like a hardcore Rush fan, they do treat it like it's nearly a religious experience.
Yeah, actually, a lot of them are really irritating. I was pretty irritating. Like when I was in high school, I was like kind of nonstop evangelizing, about Rush, and like I had their lyrics all over. You remember we used to have to you remember back when kids had school books?
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have them anymore, and you'd have to like wrap them in brown paper bags and like
you'd write
book
lyrics
covers.
and
I
stuff.
had like Rush lyrics, like I mean, not exclusively Rush, but they were probably on every book. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember too, like JanSport backpacks, they had like the leather bottom, and I remember I would draw on mine, and I do very clearly remember writing Kiss with the lightning bolt S's.
Oh yeah. Do you know that there's like a strong Rush Kiss connection?
I do not.
Oh, so Kiss was the band that like took Rush out as an opener for them, like, and really, like Rush said many times, like that's where they really learned about being a working band. Was touring with Kiss, so they were actually like lifelong friends with the band as well.
Nice.
That seems like a very unlikely pairing.
It does, doesn't
they
it?
did a lot of like Gene Simmons was super responsible for like Van Halen getting bigger. Like he helped them out in a major
really?
way. And I think Motley Crue in the 80s, like they were like Gene was like really pimping Motley Crue a lot.
Okay.
And Motley Crue even said straight up many times in those first couple albums they just wanted to be Kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's like
that's not surprising to me at all.
No, absolutely. You can look at those photos and you can just see it. So
Yeah.
So, what else have you guys been doing? I've been indulging in one of my other hobbies. What do you guys do besides record collecting?
Well, I don't know. I put on a lot of shows, or at least I tried to put on a lot of shows, do some booking. I always have a lot of ideas about doing some more visual arts, recording video and whatnot, recording live shows and whatnot with my bud Stu over here.
You slay animals?
I used to be a real big hunter, but I haven't hunted in years.
Really?
Yeah, it's just you kind of, if you're gonna do something, in my mind, like you go all in for it, and there's only so much time in the week.
Yeah.
And
I would think hunting's an expensive hobby.
it can be really cheap too. It
Kind of like
depends on
vinyl collecting.
Yeah. It's just how many
If all
gadgets.
you want is Herb Alpert,
Yeah.
like,
If you like Tijuana brass.
you can collect it all for nothing. But it's like anything. Like if you want, there's always another thing to buy.
Oh, better scope, better list.
Yeah, but you also don't have to. But I was probably in the middle of the road on that with hunting. But I'm actually thinking about selling a lot of my hunting gear so I can buy more gadgets and toys for my PA system.
Okay.
The struggle's real. You got to move those hobbies around.
It's all about the hustle and flow, baby.
I would just imagine you out in the woods, like Rambo, just snapping deer's necks with your bare hands.
No, well, maybe once or twice.
Well,
But
I
that
mean-
was just like as an ethical person, like.
How about you, Stu? What do you do in your free time besides collecting vinyl?
I play music a lot.
Yes, I would guess so. You have an awful lot of really nice looking guitars, and once upon a time, like I had guitars, and a lot of them were similar styles. So I appreciate your art. I was never good at playing guitar, so don't ever ask me to play with you.
Okay, so you don't want to jam, is what you're saying?
No.
Okay.
I have one acoustic guitar. It's my grandfather's, and it's mounted to the wall above my records. But I put the time in. Like I could do scales and stuff, and I knew a lot of chords, but I just never had a natural rhythm. So like I just eventually got to a point where I'm just like, I don't have the rhythm to do this.
And if you ever go to a live show with James, which I have, I can attest to his lack of rhythm. But what he lacks in rhythm, he 1000% makes up for in enthusiasm, and it is a beautiful thing, my friend.
Oh, I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my wife and I went to EAA, so that is a national event in Oshkosh around here.
It's international.
International, yeah. Like if you're into planes, check it out. Well, anyway, they had this hangar dance that was like styled to be like, I want to say, it's like World War II theme. So like you dress up, and then one of the things they would do was like they had someone there to teach everybody swing dancing.
Nice.
I had an absolutely terrible rhythm to the point where my wife was literally making fun of me as we were doing it, as I couldn't keep a beat. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I just don't think it's something I can ever learn. So
I think you have to have just an inherent internal clock to have a rhythm, you know.
Yes, but you are right. I am very excited. Yeah. So play music, you know.
You mentioned dancing. My wife and I have been taking dancing lessons together recently.
That's fun.
Yeah. Learning to do the cha-cha. Did some single time swing.
You guys going to the swing event at the Vaudette?
We did not make the last one. He also had Vaudette is a local over in Kaukauna, a venue that we're affiliated with. Do some stuff. I run sound at some shows there from time to time, and
I tried to do some booking.
Yeah,
we just had a big dance party, like post punk goth techno style, like dance party. A couple live bands and a DJ. Which
Before Dawn and Null Device.
Null Device, out of Madison. Yep. Before Dawn's out of Appleton.
Yep, both cool
Wisconsin.
bands. Anyway, no, I did not make it, but he does. He has a regular Latin dance night there too now.
Nice. I mean, unfortunately, like I said, I won't ever be joining you in the dancing, but I love that you guys do that. So me, I'm, I don't even know how to put this, a renaissance man of geeky crap. Mm-hmm. So like I used to be really into comic books, and I have an awful lot of them.
Me too.
But I really haven't. I got so behind when I was in nursing school. Like I got stacks and stacks of them that I've not been able to catch up on.
Do you go? I'm interrupting, but do you go to Powerhouse here?
Powerhouse,
in town?
yeah. I have I'm box 28 there, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So right now I'm currently just subscribing to Spider-Man stuff. But I got into it when I had cancer. I was collecting the Ultimate Spider-Man comic books. So I have the entire Ultimate line, which they no longer make anymore. Wow. I have every issue of every single thing there. And then I just have a lot of other Marvel stuff, and I got some DC stuff, but I used to be really into that. I got a lot of Marvel Legends action figures that I will probably be selling in the near future just because they're sitting collecting dust. But I play a lot of video games. I've just been lost completely in Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
I was playing it before I came over here, and I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I feel like I'm stealing time from another hobby to do another hobby.
Oh man, yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
The struggle's real, man.
I feel a little guilty once in a while, and I'm just like, man, I got these records I've barely listened to, but I've just been flying around on my broom being a good little wizard.
So yeah, I think that's why a lot of my hobbies have kind of come together, just literally encompassing music. Because I don't ever feel like I'm really stealing one from the other. It all kind of flows together. Some days it might be more heavy, listening and collecting music. Some days it might be, setting up bands. But like those bands, you end up finding new bands, and then you find new music, and you find a new record. And
one band leads you to another band, to another band. It's just this big rabbit hole, and that's one of the things I love about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like too, like I don't know, I got my personal relationship with music. I would almost say it's like a sacred thing, like it's a religious thing to me, to a point where like I have to protect it and guard it, like that, like cleaning the records and, you know, putting them away in a nice spot and having them alphabetized. And I take like a great comfort in preserving them. Whereas like when I play like a video game, it's more about relaxing. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll put music on like to try to relax, but it's definitely not the same experience out of the two hobbies.
Interesting.
See, I can't ever really see video games being relaxing because I'm so competitive, even if it's just with myself, that I get amped up because like, oh, I want to win, I want to kill that bad guy, or oh, I got to do that better, or whatever.
You got to play some of these new games where like you don't have to do anything. You can just sort of roam around the planet and explore.
See, to me, like,
I mean, I don't do that. I don't. But,
to me, that's a waste of time. Those kind of things. Like, if I'm not winning, if I'm not kicking someone's butt or like capturing and saving the princess or whatever like there has to be a goal with it.
Yeah,
I'm just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I could be walking around the woods, or I could be like walking around, filtering through a record store. Like,
so like in Harry Potter, like I'm doing all the side quests, and like my other friends that are playing it are way farther than me, but like I'm doing all the side stuff, so that will make me like immensely powerful. So like when I play these games, like, and I get to the point where I start playing through the quest, I just wreck people. Like, it's not even like a question. Like, I'll roll into a place and I'm like God, and I'm just like knocking people away and stuff like that. I'm like, because that's how I am in real life. Like, if I'm gonna go into a fight, like I'm gonna go into a fight and I'm gonna like,
you're gonna use black magic.
I'm gonna use black. I'm gonna be yelling Crucio every 5 seconds. Avocravada, you know, like that kind of thing. So, all right. Well, I suppose we should probably, you know, do the show.
I guess.
oh shoot, we got a show to do.
Oh yeah. Did you think we were here just to drink beer?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's what I got a trailer. I don't have any bottled beer. I only got beer on tap, so I had to fill up the to-go cup today.
Yeah. Well, respect. All right. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? We are coming to you from the Moonhop Studios with the founder of Moonhop Media, my guy, Stu. How you doing, Stu?
I'm doing great, James. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And the beast, the man,
Mr. Steve Main.
Mr. Steve Main.
That's who he's talking about.
Yeah, no, I was talking about myself. I, of course, am James Dorn, and we are in Wisconsin, and we are about to get buried in snow alive again. Woohoo! Yeah, it was like 10 inches or something tomorrow.
I don't know. It's 0 to like 52 was the last inch count I heard. It's like anywhere between 0 inches and 52 inches.
So that's like
hedging their bets.
Yeah, we'll let you know on Saturday. If
it's
we
good
get
to be a weatherman. Yeah, it's like that's like the only job in the world that you can just be that inaccurate. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So we got some news. We got some loose ends, as always, because we always forget stuff, and you know we can't remember
because we don't know how to tie our shoes.
Pretty much. All right. So busting into the news. So Geezer Butler of the good old band Black Sabbath is releasing a candid autobiography called "Into the Void: From Birth to Black Sabbath and Beyond" on June 6th.
Cool.
Nice.
It's kind of a cool name. I mean, it's like a mouthful, but it's a cool name.
Yeah.
So, Fahim Rashad Najim, or T-Pain, has announced he will be releasing a 7-track project called Under the Covers on 3/17 of 23. And guess what? He's going to use his natural voice, no auto-tune.
Nice.
Ooh.
So he was funny, like because he was on The Masked Singer, and he did an episode of This Is Pop on Netflix, where basically he's like, people don't think I can actually sing.
Yeah, I watched that episode, particularly after our conversation about the auto tune and all that, and I watched that, and it was. I gained a lot of respect for the man, I'll say.
Oh, yeah, that's totally.
Yep.
I mean,
and then when I heard him sing, really, I'm like, God, why would you not always use that? Your voice is great, dude.
I know.
oh,
but
absolutely.
I get it, artistic freedom and all that. So, you know.
I think it's artistic slavery, people using auto-tune. I think they
Yeah, I mean, you're a sound-
largely they feel forced into it.
You're
I
a
think.
sound guy, so like I feel like you'd probably kill yourself if you had to use autotune all the time.
Yeah, but I'm also not like a professional with lots of bands coming through all the time down here in that sense where it's very expected that you're going to use auto-tune. And I just have a philosophical thing against it. So.
Can we use auto-tune for an entire episode where we sound like robots like T-Pain?
I don't know. I'll consider it.
No, please don't. That'd be terrible. But no, I back in the day, like I saw his Tiny Desk concert on NPR, and I was like, I'd really love to hear him sing some like blues or soul. I feel like it would be great. So
I agree.
All right. A year after removing Death Row's music from the streaming services, Snoop Dogg has made their catalog available on TikTok's Sound On platform. So he was like saying like Death Row is going to be the first all NFT record label where that was like the only way they were going to
I remember you talking about that. Yeah.
I like rushed out and I bought the Chronic and Doggy Style and stuff like immediately because I'm like, well, you know, they're not going to do any physical media or anything. And to me, this is that falling apart now, and I couldn't be happier. So. Coming out of Peachtree City, Georgia, customers at a local supermarket have complained about Snoop Dogg's 19 Crimes wine display, claiming it was stereotypical and offensive during Black History Month. I've had the 19 Crimes wine. It's actually really good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. My wife even liked it.
What would you pair it with?
Fish? No. No, I like dry red wines. So and really after like the first glass, it doesn't really matter.
Just like a huge blunt, like that's what you pair it with.
I may say,
I usually pair it with another glass of 19 Crimes. I also enjoy the 19 Crimes.
It's good.
Yeah, I love their cabs and they have a good Shiraz.
It's just like I'm up to 38 crimes already.
Well, anytime you're hanging out with anytime you're hanging out with Steve. So we had some deaths. We don't really have a ton of news, but this death I thought was particularly unfortunate was, and I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong because I say things wrong all the time. Legendary Burt Bacharach died of natural causes at age 94 on February 8th. He was known just for being a really prolific artist on his own right, but he also like did a lot of film arrangements and wrote a lot of songs for other people. Like one of my favorite songs was he did I Say a Little Prayer. That was like a big soul hit. Walk On By. What the World Needs Now Is Love.
That's a great one.
That's a great one. I particularly really isn't that the song that he sang in the second Austin Powers movie? No, he didn't sing it. Elvis Costello sang it.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And you and I share a deep love for Elvis Costello.
Oh yeah. And so do you have the? I think they did 2 albums together. I only have the first one, Painted from Memory.
I have yet to pull the trigger on that because I was filling in with like Elvis's like back catalog, like the stuff that like to me I was like I have to have these.
Yeah.
But eventually I will get those because Bert's just wonderful.
Yeah, I like that album.
What's New Pussycat?
Did
you know he wrote that? I did not until I
think
read
I just like in one of the few articles I wrote on when the day he died. I saw that and I was like, oh wow, that totally makes sense. Like,
was it Tom Jones that made that popular?
Yeah, that was
Baby It's You, which was originally popular in '61 by the Shirelles, and then the Beatles would later cover it. Let's see, I'll Never Fall in Love Again. That was Bobby Gentry in 1969. Oh, actually, no. This is the song that Elvis Costello did. Was "I'll Never Fall in Love Again," which was for Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Okay.
Yeah. Either way, I love Elvis. Like when people say Elvis, I think of Costello. I don't think of Presley.
Oh yeah,
same here. Yeah.
So,
I was never. I mean, not that I don't like Elvis Presley, but like I was just like, I just didn't catch the allure of it, so to speak. But like the first time I heard Elvis Costello, which was pretty late in life, I think I was in my early pushing mid-20s before I really, I mean, I'd probably heard a song or two on the radio. And
me too.
And whatnot.
I was late teens when I really discovered him.
I was in my early 20s. I saw him. He was on SNL and he played radio. And I was
yep.
And I was just like, who is this guy?
Yeah. And it's a lot of the songs I'd heard, on the radio, but I just didn't know who it was. It was just like, oh, those radio songs, blah, blah, blah. And I had a good friend. He was actually the same friend that got me into Rush. Rush was another band I didn't get into them really. Like I knew like Working Man and a couple of their big radio hits just from the classic rock station around here, WAPL, because you hear the same 4 songs every day since 1985. They've been playing these same songs. They still play them today, I'm sure. But it was in my I was probably 20, 21, 22. And my buddy Chris, my old guitarist, he got me into Rush and Elvis Costello both. He was just a huge fan of those. Like he'd known him since he was a kid, and I was just like, gosh, how have I not like really gotten into these bands? Like,
Yeah,
because wasn't Elvis kind of in proxy to like Blondie and stuff like that? So like he had a little bit of a pull from like the mild punk crowd, not like talking about like hardcore guys.
Yeah, kind of like
Well,
that punk avant-garde kind of.
Yeah,
New York
he's
crowd.
English, and so he was coming out at the same time that like I think like Buzzcocks were getting famous, and I mean like the Clash and everything. Like he was contemporary with them, but like it just came from a different angle, right? Like so he got grouped in with them because he had that kind of aggression and edge in his lyrics, but the music pulled like from R&B a little bit more. Soul.
That's
and
probably why I
Motown.
like it, because I really love like soul.
I love
music.
their bass player in the Attractions, Bruce Thomas. Like one of my favorite bass players.
Yeah. I there's never a bad time to listen to Elvis Costello in my mind. Like I've yet to, and I'm sure you could probably tell me one, but I've never heard an album of his I didn't like.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got a couple bad ones, but they all do. So then he also did a song that was real popular in the UK called This Guy's in Love with You, which was popular by a UK singer by the name of Danny Williams. 1996, and I just brought this up because this is one of my favorites. Noel Gallagher of Oasis performed a version of this at the London Royal Festival, where they actually performed it together. And then actually earlier, Noel had placed a picture of Bert on the cover, or I don't know if it was on the cover, but it was on Oasis's first album, Definitely Maybe. It was kind of like just in the background, and it was like an homage because Bert was one of his heroes. And I was like, I love that.
That's cool.
I love that. So,
did he also do? Is it in your notes? Like I have in the back of my head maybe that he wrote "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head."
I'm pretty sure I think so. I think I remember.
I think
that.
so. Yeah.
Guess I'll add that to the loose ends.
That's got a really nice moment. Have you ever seen the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
I haven't, and I feel silly for not because that's such a classic film.
Well, so that's another hobbies. I'm a huge film buff too, and I do video production and stuff. But yeah, anyway, it's got a nice moment in that movie. So. We'll have to watch it together sometime.
I would. I'd be down for that. Have some brewskis.
Yeah.
So Steve, you said you got some birthdays?
Yeah. On a lighter note, I figured, hey, we should do some birthdays. We do all these death days, and I can get a little bit depressing.
I like to focus on the dark things in life.
So yeah, just kind of like I was looking at stuff, and it's like, well, there's we do this episode on one day, and it comes out usually a couple of days, if not a week later, and whatnot. So I just kind of looked at like the last couple weeks. So basically, from the 18th to the end of this month. So. Prepare your boo and hiss and buzzers for on the February 18th, Yoko Ono's birthday. But on a better note, Juice Newton and John Travolta were born on the same day.
Did you know Juice? I believe it was their 1981 album, Juice. There was actually 2 versions of it. One was had a country flavor to it.
Really?
And it was like some producer wasn't happy with it, so they didn't recall it. They left it in circulation, and then they recorded it as like more of a pop version. I want to say it was one song in particular. It was like the big song off that album, and so you can find really like both of those versions out there.
50.
I think I only have the more pop version, so that's kind of on my list to get eventually.
Fun. So on the February 19th, Smokey Robinson.
Love me some Smokey.
Yeah, Smokey's a cool cat.
He's still alive?
I don't know.
It
I
would
believe
be a miracle.
I think I want to say he's got a record store day release coming out.
Really?
I think it's one of his class. I'll know because I think I would get that. And then side note, I feel a little embarrassed to say this. I saw Al Green was going to be playing a festival coming up. I didn't know Al Green was still alive.
Yeah.
I did it. I felt really embarrassed when I saw that up because I really like soul music, and I'm like, oh, he's got to be in his 80s, I would assume.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
If not early 90s, man. He's been around.
Yeah, I would think so.
So February 20th, we got Jay Giles and Kurt Cobain.
Same day?
Same day, yeah.
Oh.
So 21st, we got David Geffen, huge record producer. Jerry Harrison, keyboardist from Talking Heads. Not a very common name, but I've always loved the Talking Heads.
Yep. Terrific.
I thought
band.
I'd give him a good mention. 25th, we got an old country artist, Farron Young. I don't know if you all know him. I love Farron Young.
Nope.
I love the old country. He did. He was the one that wrote. Willie Nelson made the song, the popular. I can't think of the name of it. These Walls. I can't. It's something about These Walls. It's a very popular song, and I'm
Adding that to future loose ends.
I'm having a brain fart on the name of it. But anyway, if you all know Willie Nelson, you know the song I'm talking about. But also on the 25th is George Harrison, one of the famous Beatles.
Have you guys ever heard of George Harrison?
Yeah. I believe is he the last? Oh no, he's not. There's
McCartney and Ringo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, George is dead.
Yeah, George is dead.
Cancer, I believe.
26th, Fats Domino and Johnny Cash.
Ooh, that's a good combo.
Yeah, no doubt. Like they're partying now. They're partying on a couple.
Too bad
days.
they never made an album together. That would have been wild.
That's true.
Well, they're I think they're also both deceased.
Yeah, they're both dead. That's what I'm
okay.
saying. They're going to be having a good party up wherever the hell they are.
Upstairs.
Yeah.
When I went to Nashville, I did go to the Johnny Cash Museum, and I was surprised the amount of stuff they had there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It was. I mean, you got to be a real appreciative person of Johnny Cash, but I was just shocked the quantity of stuff they had there.
Yeah, Johnny, he put out so many albums. I think just from like we were talking on the last episode about just, inheriting people's collections, and a lot of them, just their parents' records and whatnot. Just from those and just records I've picked up over the years, I think I have at least a dozen Johnny Cash records.
That's not even counting like compilations.
Yeah,
and
and that's probably
and,
I probably only have like a tenth of his discography.
Wow.
I think I got like
he's
two
got
or three. I think
so many records out. It's just it's undaunting. Like, 'cause I'll go like, I should maybe pick up a couple more. Because you'll see them for $2, $8, $10, whatever. But I'm just like, where do I stop? Like, I don't need 3 feet of Johnny Cash in my. I don't have that much storage.
I kind of feel the same way about Chet Atkins.
Yeah.
Another country guy that
I've been thinking about getting some Chet.
I love Chet Atkins. He put out so many records, and like once he got 10, it's like, I mean, this is still good, but like I'm probably not going to listen to too much more than this.
Yeah. It's kind of like it kind of does get like you get a little oversaturated on stuff, and
I got Johnny's Folsom album, like an OG copy of it. That's
nice.
Probably one of my favorite things I got, and I really appreciated when I was reading about it, like how he did that album because he felt like the people who were in prison weren't being treated like human beings because he had been in prison. And like he even at one point in that show plays a song that one of the prisoners wrote, just something that was just wildly different than the main public thought at the time. In a lot of ways, he was like a visionary for that.
Yeah. Merle Haggard. I don't believe he did I know he didn't do like an album recorded in a prison, but I know he wrote quite a few songs after his experiences of being in prison for some time, and just kind of had that same like, hey, these are people too, and they need a voice. They have things to say. They're not all pieces of trash or whatever negative comment you want to you can insert there. So I don't know if you know Merle Haggard much, but he's another one of the best old country artists. Like
Sex Pistols also did a prison show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a little dangerous.
I think I remember that from there. There was that like movie documentary.
Oh yeah, the recent one. The Danny Boyle. Yeah,
that's funny.
I would expect like having the Sex Pistols to do that. I would be concerned for a riot.
Oh, yeah.
They were terrified. The band was like getting locked in there. It's like nobody really did that. And, it was.
Are they ever going to let us out?
Yeah.
I know.
But,
every time
it was very successful.
So Steve and I worked at a hospital with a mental health unit, and I had a similar feeling every time I had to take a patient up to the mental health unit. There was part of me that was absolutely terrified I was going to get locked in that unit. I don't know what it was. It just wigged me out, and I was all worked up until I got away from that department. So
yeah, there's a definite energy in places like that. Like it's a tension in the air, because there's a lot going on. I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Anytime you go through multiple locked doors to get in somewhere, when I worked in Madison, I worked what's the big facility down there? Mendota.
Mendota Mental Health Hospital, and that's like they have units there where literal serial killers from all over the country are locked up.
Whoa! We don't have serial killers in Wisconsin.
No, I said in from the country, but also from our state.
Yeah, my wife likes true crime podcasts, so I'm well versed in how many serial killers are from our state.
Yeah, we could do another whole podcast on just stories from transferring Mendota patients, because man, I got some doozies.
Yeah, I'm sure
some doozies. So. On the birthday note, one last birthday. Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones.
Okay,
will be celebrating a birthday on the 28th.
Happy birthday, Brian!
Happy birthday!
Keep on
to
rolling.
All past and present.
Yep, that's a lot of past. You mentioned both Yoko and George, of course. Have you guys watched the Get Back special documentary? Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson one.
Yeah,
I have Disney Plus. It's been on my to-do list, and I don't want to do it like half-ass where like I'm not really paying attention to it.
Well, I'm watching it right now. I mean, it's long. I think the whole thing is like 8 hours, and it is both like fascinating and tedious. Like
I heard it's a trip. Like
both.
You'll like see one of them sit there and they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna write a song." You literally watch them write a
Paul
very
McCartney. You like watch the creative process where he just sort of like fumbles his way into like writing Get Back. Like
yeah, it's just the craziness.
So it's really awesome. Like from a creative, artistic perspective like that, and seeing like kind of a dysfunctional band try and figure out how to work it out.
I'm sure you guys have never had that.
Work it out. Yeah. Well, if you've ever been in like a band where you were having like an unproductive practice and like it is excruciating, and here you're watching like, the Beatles like live the same thing, at some point. Like,
yeah, I literally had a band where we had a literal Yoko Ono situation, and just the demise, the last 3 to 6 months of that band was just, it was hard to be a part of. Like, I actually even quit the band at one time. They got another drummer, didn't work out. They like pleaded with me to come back. I begrudgingly did. And I think we paid another like 2 or 3 shows. And like, we literally had like a decent sized label looking at us for one of their like sub labels. And we just couldn't write. We could barely get through band practice enough to just prepare for the next show. And we just stopped writing. Like the creative process just literally died. And we'd show up, we'd hash through a 40-minute set. A lot of times, like I was a drummer, so I controlled the tempo. So a lot of times I'd get us out of there in 32 minutes. And yeah, it was redonkulous. It was bad.
I don't think she's to blame for what was going on in at least this in Get Back.
Yeah,
she does do a little shrieking during one of their jam sessions.
Yeah, I mean, from everything I've heard, like Lennon wasn't the nicest guy in the world to begin with.
No,
like I remember hearing a story like he killed someone before they got famous, like in a bar fight.
Huh? I don't know about that.
Yeah, I heard it's like he got in a fight and the guy had a brain damage or something.
Well, you might be talking about Stu Sutcliffe, the original bass player.
Yeah, I never verified it, but it was from a pretty big Beatles.
They did get in a fight, and he kicked him in the head. This is my recollection of it. There's no proof that was what ultimately caused the brain damage that killed him. It was not like an instantaneous thing at all. And I think he said later in life he was always haunted by like the possibility that like that contributed to his death, but like that. It's not like, as far as I know, it's not like...
Probably a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe I'll look into that. So I do got a couple other loose ends. So I went to the Eroding Winds, and Seth, who works there, that's my favorite, salesperson that works at that store. He came up to me and he's like, "Hey, I was listening to the podcast," and he's like, did you listen to Magma? And I'm like, and I was like, no, I can't say that I've listened to Magma. And he's like, they're really good. And he was like telling me more about them. And I was like, okay, well, now Stu's told me that they're great. He's told me that they were great.
They're wild.
They are. It was really interesting. So I got in the car and my son was with me and I was like, let's listen to this. And I put it on and he loved it.
Oh, really?
Like, he's like, this is
awesome.
great. And I was telling him like it was a made up alien language and stuff like that. And I'm like, what do you, I didn't tell him what I thought. I was like, what do you think? And he's like, this is great. And he's like in the back seat, like bouncing around and like really, it's happy, upbeat music. I definitely see like the, what is it? Jazz element to it. Like it's blatant. So it was super interesting. So I talked about a song I really liked by the Panic at the Disco off of Viva Las Vengeance. The song is called Don't Let the Lights Go Out.
Oh, yep.
So, Stu, you had mentioned a TV show that you watched back in the day.
I did.
Yes, it was Reverb.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't remember a whole lot about the show.
No.
So I did some research. So this was a weekly TV series on HBO, spotlighting not emergent. There goes my healthcare brain working. Spotlights emerging talents. And it was on from 97 to 2001. It had 4 seasons. And I kid you not, the list of people that were on there was ridiculous. It was so many. And I just wrote a few. Bad Religion, the Beastie Boys, Beck, Ben Folds 5, Linkin Park, Weezer, Wilco, Green Day, Foo Fighters, Blondie, and R.L. Burnside, just to name maybe a quarter of
I've
them.
got that Ben Folds 5 is one of the ones I have on VHS that I taped.
I was just like, oh my God, there's so many good bands. And when I saw R.L. Burnside, I was like, that's super interesting because this was like when no one knew who R.L. Burnside was. Like,
I still don't.
Oh, you gotta check out some R.L.
Yeah,
Okay.
I bet you'll like Arlo.
Yeah?
Like I'm not big into him, but I've heard enough. Like he's quality. He's
Okay.
quality dude.
Yeah.
So if you want a fun album, it's like one of his last ones. It's a yellowish cover, and he's standing there like flexing almost, like with his arms down. Start there. That's a good upbeat album.
Okay.
So we were talking about Geezer Butler of Black Sabbath, and we had some discussion about, were they Christian or, we didn't know what their religion was. Apparently I found this article and it was from like more than 12 years ago where they were interviewing him. And, he said, he was largely responsible for the bulk of their lyrics. The full band was raised Christian. And at least maybe at that time, he had basically said that all of them believed in God. And that the band was actually very pro-Christian, calling the song After Forever probably the first Christian rock song ever.
I might have said that. And that was the song that specifically, when I said that last episode we were talking about that I was like, I think maybe that's the song that made me think that.
And he said basically it was like people just took the name and they just always like assume the negative of stuff.
I mean, they do sing about Satan quite a bit, and stuff.
Well,
And
Satan
they
was
took
in the Bible.
It's
Yeah,
totally
true.
true. Well, back in the, do you guys know who Lester Bangs was?
That name sounds super familiar.
He was
but no.
he was a rock writer back in the 60s and 70s.
Did he invent the pet rock?
He did not, but if you ever saw the movie Almost Famous,
that's where
Cameron Crowe.
that's
So
where I
Philip
probably
Seymour
heard it.
Hoffman plays Lester Bangs in that movie. But
okay.
He was kind of a butthole in that movie.
I mean, maybe a little bit. I mean, I really like. I bought a couple of compilations of just his, he used to write for like Cream magazine and
I
some
love
other
that.
stuff,
I absolutely
and-
love that movie. I even own the soundtrack to it.
It's a terrific movie.
is.
But he wrote one of the articles he wrote was like, is Black Sabbath like, I think he like the first Catholic band or something like that. So he saw way back in the day, like, when they had fans who were like positive that they were like, black magic practitioners. And he was like, I sense actually a strong sense of like traditional Catholic morality coming from this band, which I thought was kind of interesting. And
Just obviously way ahead of his time.
Yeah, y'all can't see it, but my eyes are like saucers. Like by that comment, like what?
it's crazy. It's a good art. You should read some of his stuff, man. He was an exciting writer. Like, even though I didn't agree with everything he ever said, like I just like.
Well, I mean, a
get
good
into
writer
it, yeah.
proposes questions that make you talk.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with them. So
Yeah.
my last loose end was when I was talking about Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous that I had recently bought it. You asked, is Huey Lewis credited as Bluey? Bluey. My kid watches Bluey a lot.
I caught the reference right away.
I didn't know what you were talking about.
Bluesy
Dad
Huey
props.
Lewis, and he absolutely
He was bluesy Huey Lewis on that one. Yeah,
he was.
That's awesome.
So
You know the Huey Lewis band connection with Elvis Costello. You're like making all sorts of stuff.
I
trigger in my head.
don't.
So the band that would become the News, and I think they were called Caramel. But
Yeah, because I did some research on with Thin Lizzy for
Oh, you did? Okay.
a segment that we have, and I believe I remember them mentioning that.
okay,
I didn't do a deep dive. I just remember that name.
so they're actually the backing band on "My Aim Is True," Elvis's first album before the Attractions got put together.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like Huey Lewis and the News without Huey Lewis. That's Elvis Costello.
Oh, well, and you think about that, like maybe the world would have turned out differently. Like had they stayed with Elvis, who knows? So, did you guys? I know you guys probably didn't like go through it quite to the depth that I did. When I got that record store day list that dropped on the website, I first run through. I think I was probably like 20 some albums I wanted to buy.
Yeah, there's only. I haven't even had a chance to go through the list, but Frank Turner, I know, he's re-releasing. It'll be the 10th anniversary edition of Tape Deck Heart, and they're releasing that special edition on Record Store Day. But as far as I could tell from the way he advertised it on his Facebook, that it's only going to be released in the UK. There's like 1,500 copies of it.
Yeah, there's a couple that I want to get that are pretty.
I don't
limited.
know if there's like some of those are getting allocated to the US or not, or if there's some UK release and a US release. I don't know.
So sometimes when you go on that website, you can see where it says regional focus, meaning where they're only going to do it in a certain area, but they don't tell you what area that is. So yeah, that is like a couple of years ago they had that hand poured copy of one of the Rolling Stone albums. I can't remember what it was, but it was like going for just a ridiculous amount of money. It was such a limited amount of them. I'm willing to bet most of those are probably released in the UK.
Yeah, and I'm that's one like right away I was like, ooh, I want that. And usually I'm not a big like anniversary edition, like re-release stuff, unless that's all I can get. And when I kind of got in, I was kind of late to the boat with Frank Turner when I got into him. Like I got into him not long before his Be More Kind release, which is I think 2018, something like that. Like I'd kind of known about him, and, listened to him a little bit, but that was like when I was like, wow, I need to listen to a lot more of this guy because he's fucking awesome. So I already have two 10-year anniversary represses, or not? They're not even represses. They're just 10th anniversary editions. One is England Keep My Bones.
You got me into that album.
What was that?
You got me into that album.
Yeah.
I don't have it yet, but it's on my list.
Yep. No, I'm trying to think of the other one that I have, but I have two. Actually, I might even have a third 10th anniversary of his already. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of already down that road with that artist. And I'm like, man, if I can get my hands on a copy of this. So if you guys happen to see that on your Record Store Day jaunts.
Yeah, I present world, I'm currently working, but I'm not above abusing one of my friendships and making one of my friends work.
By calling in sick?
No, I already sent an email out to everyone.
Your boss doesn't listen to this, do they?
No, she doesn't listen to this. I'm going to get off. It might cost me some extra money potentially, but I'm going to get off. There's no way I'm not going to go to Record Store
James
Day.
always gets off when he needs to.
He's got the rockin' pneumonia.
Yeah.
The
Boogie
And
Woogie
I even
Blues.
said the email.
Boogie
like,
Woogie Blues. I like that better.
I said, please help me donate large amounts of money to our local record store. But I went through and I picked out some of the ones that I was excited about that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And one of the things I wanted to stress to everyone is like, if this is your first Record Store Day, make sure you check the list again right before you go buy. And the reason is sometimes there's always stuff getting added, stuff getting taken off, stuff getting pushed back. Typically, there's 3 different categories. There's Record Store Day first, record meaning that it's going to be released later, Record Store Day exclusive, and then I think it's Record Store Day essentials, which essentials you can usually get before Record Store Day and long after it. So
Are they doing Record Store Day? Are they doing it multiple days this year? Like
It's
the last
one
couple
day.
years? It is just back to one day
One
this
day
year?
and Black Friday. Black Friday's
Oh, okay.
so technically 2 days, but it's not like my first year where I think it was 3 days, not counting Black Friday.
I got to confess, I don't think I've ever actually gone to a record store on Record Store Day.
It can be chaos depending on how the store runs it. I know you said Eroding Winds was awesome last year.
So I went to it for Black Friday. I did not because they weren't open for the previous Record Store Day, and then the one before that, exclusive company was still open, so I went there. And every time I went to the exclusive company, I got there probably like 3 or 4 in the morning, and there was already like 4 or 5 people there. When I got to the Eroding Winds on Black Friday, I was there at 6 because they don't open as early, and there's nobody there. So, yeah, and but they did tell me like in Oshkosh people line up at like 3 or 4 in the morning, or no, I think midnight even is what they said. I'm like, I'm not gonna get there at midnight. Like even like I will not probably get there earlier than 6 because I know they don't open till noon. And I'm not gonna wait in line for 6 hours.
Yeah, that's
What's funny is I've got some great Record Store Day exclusive records. And it's just shit that other people didn't want. I picked up a Magma record probably 6 months after it came out.
You can,
No
the
one
key
wanted it.
is like
Dr. John.
a lot of that stuff you just don't like have a gut reaction. Like if you don't get it that first day, don't go home and go online and buy it immediately from some flipper because the prices will come down usually.
Yeah.
And then also too, there's a lot of stores like Rough Trade out of New York and Plaid Room Records out of Ohio. They will put stuff up the next day, like so Sunday morning on their site. Now you got to be fast with your fingers, but a lot of times you can get the stuff.
Okay.
So
well, what's on your list, James? What are you itching to spend your hard-earned dough on?
So one of them is The Amazing World of Doctor Who. This is a story celebrated from the book of the same name. It was first released in 1976. It is limited to 1,500 copies of colored vinyl. It doesn't say what color. I have had good luck getting Doctor Who in the past.
So you're a Doctor Who fan.
Huge Doctor Who fan.
Really?
Huge Doctor Who
right.
fan. I think I've bought in like the last couple of years every Record Store Day one, and I'm caught up. I'm eagerly waiting to see my favorite Doctor, David Tennant, return back here shortly.
Okay.
Hey, don't you have a Doctor Who tramp stamp?
I'm not opposed to getting one. So this one's a bit ironic because Stu was able to get some Kiss records for me. So Eric Carr is releasing his Rockology album. Eric Carr has since passed away. In 1978, Kiss released 4 solo albums. Eric Carr joined Kiss in 1980, and he was replacing Peter Criss. He stayed in the band until his passing in 1991 from heart cancer, I believe it was. He wore the Fox makeup, which eventually Kiss would take the makeup off in 1983. This album,
poor decision.
What's that?
That was a poor decision.
Yeah, I overall I agree. Originally, this album was released in 1999 with a completely different cover. It's being remastered by his sister Loretta. It's 2 LPs, and it comes with a 12 by 24 poster. It's going to have an OBI, so spine strip. So if you ever are a Japanese record collector, it's basically this like special label that's on the side. This is not a Japanese themed one, but it's going to have an obi. And then the album is going to be, one is going to be orange and clear with black swirl, and the other one is going to be black and clear with orange swirl. It's going to be 4,000 available nationally. And then this is going to be an exclusive, but generally when there's 4,000 of them, I feel like that's a pretty easy get.
Yeah. 4,000's quite a bit.
Yeah, so this next one, I've had a love affair with this album for years. It's Macho Man Randy Savage's Be a Man. This is Macho Man's rap album that he released.
Oh, yeah.
Snap into it.
Basically, the whole premise of this album is like he's taking shots at Hulk Hogan and stuff. And he did this album with actual rappers, and it was supposed to be a serious album. There's only going to be 1,000 copies of this, but I did find that they recently somewhere else re-released it on silver, and that one's only going for like $60. So if I don't get this one, I'll probably drop the money. I don't know if it's like an unofficial release, but there's silver copies floating around.
Okay, so you were a WWF fan back in the day?
No, well, I mean, I do watch it now occasionally because my kid's into it. A couple of my guy friends are, but I watched that stuff when I was a kid. But the reason I have a good memory of this is back when I worked at GameStop, we would I'll spare you how we did it, but basically we'd listen to this and it was just absolutely hilarious. So I got a good memory of one of my best friends listening to this to him.
Gotcha.
With him.
I bet it's definitely hilarious.
Yes.
What's the quality like? I mean, is it like produced well and like...
Oh, he's got a song where you don't know, it sounds like a rap album, but he's doing his like, oh yeah, like he's doing that stuff, but
Nice.
it sounds like rap music. Like
It's kind of like what DMX did too, right?
yeah, it's I would put tonally it is similar to DMX.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah, but he's like it's all rap stuff, and he's got like a ballad at one point about his friend Mr. Perfect. And about how he's like, you were a perfect friend. You're like,
We definitely got to listen to a track or two after this.
oh yeah, absolutely. I one way or another before the end of this year, I'm gonna own this album on vinyl.
Okay. So better than Dee Dee Ramone's rap album.
I've never heard that, but yes.
Yeah.
So,
you just know it is.
Orville Peck is actually releasing a special version of Bronco. No difference track wise. I just really love Orville Peck, and it's going to be on double metallic gold.
Nice.
I just like Orville that much that if I can upgrade my copy and maybe give the other one to one of you guys.
My good buddy Darren turned me on to him earlier this year, and I was pretty astonished
Orville
with like
is-
just his voice.
It's
and I
like-
love the
It's like it's butter, man. It's
Yeah.
just so flippin' smooth.
and the style. It's like it was sort of Elvis-y country.
Yeah, like when he comes
Like-
out, he comes on stage and goes, "Hi, I'm Orville Peck," and he sounds like Johnny Cash when
Yeah.
he does that. And it's just, I'm really kind of disappointed I didn't go see him when he was in Milwaukee not that long ago. But
he played Madison, the Sylvie in Madison not too long ago. One of our local artists, Christopher Gold, and the New Old Things, they got to open up for him.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of a last minute thing. They got the call up to go down and open up at the Sylvie for him, which is a great venue for those guys.
Yeah.
And like Chris is like I believe he was already a pretty big Orville Peck fan,
I believe
and so
it.
to open out and hang out with that dude, like he was just in hog heaven from
bet.
what I hear. Like
I
it was,
would be ecstatic. if
Yeah.
I
Good
got
for
to
them
hang
too,
out.
man. I mean, Chris Gold, they're a band. They play a lot around here,
Yeah.
and they are ready. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can imagine a band like Orville Peck that's like, oh shit, we need an opener. Like New Old Things, like that's a reliable
Yep.
band. Like they're gonna be good.
yeah,
you know?
definitely. And they're
So,
still and they're like there's classic as a '57 Chevy.
yeah.
So
And, like, it's-
here, we'll just say this: do check out Orville Peck if you're not familiar. Orville Peck's wonderful country, and at times, I would say almost Broadway worthy, like his voice.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
But to go on with Chris Gold and New Old Things, that guy is so like ingrained in our local music scene and does so much for us. Like from this podcast page, I frequently like his stuff, share his stuff, and comment on his things.
Oh, do you?
I don't think he probably wouldn't
He
know
doesn't
who I
know who we are.
was. Like I've
Yeah.
met him, like with Steve, but
yeah, we'll definitely get him on the show one day. I wanted to start doing some interviews and whatnot, and I know Chris is he's a huge vinyl collector, and just his knowledge of music, like through the genres, like he's not by any means any kind of one trick pony. Like
Just
he
a nice
listens
guy,
to
too.
everything. Yeah, he's super nice guy.
So let's try to get him on before the end of the year. I
Yeah.
really like that. So another one. I don't normally buy compilations, but we got T-Rex Rockin' and Rollins coming out. This was originally released in Japan over 50 years ago. It is a compilation on 140 gram pink. It is also has several non-album B-sides, which is why I'm buying it. It's got Born to Boogie, Spaceball Ricochet, Ballrooms of Mars, and more. This is an RSD first, so this is another one of those ones I could easily get at some point. It's going to be 2,000 copies.
So was that so? I know some of those songs. I mean, two of those are off the slider. Are they different versions, or was this like?
So the article wasn't expressly clear of it, but it did make it sound like there's some stuff that was B-sides from singles.
Okay.
So these are just a couple of the hot songs that they marketed.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to buy that because I love T-Rex and I want to have as complete a collection as possible. So Black Keys live at Beachland Tavern, which was their first live show, March 31st of 2002. This is the 20th anniversary full-length recording out of Cleveland, Ohio on Tangerine Orange, RSD exclusive, but 5,000 copies of it.
Wow. And you said that was their first live show ever?
First live show is the Black Keys.
And it was recorded. That's pretty rare. That's
What year
awesome.
was that?
2002.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
So this album they had up, like they drop randomly and very quickly on their website on vinyl, and I got a text message, and by the time I got on my phone to order it, it was gone. So this, if I walk out of Record Store Day and I don't have this album, I'm gonna be angry.
Yeah.
This is like, in my mind, this is like an all or nothing. Like, this album needs to come home with me, or I'll go online and I will buy this one from a flipper.
I'm trying to do some math in my head. I saw the Black Keys, had no idea who they were, open up for Beck back in the early 2000s when I lived in Philadelphia. And it was like years later when like I saw them somewhere else and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the band we saw open up for Beck. Man,
That
it might have
could
been just around that time.
And I copied that directly off of the Record Store Day website. So if something's wrong, it's on them. So, do you like the Donnas?
Don't really know the Donnas.
The Donnas, all right. So the Donnas, I guess I'd put as like an all-girl, like almost like they're not a cover band, but they're a tribute to like classic rock. Like it's a lot of like AC/DC guitar riffs, and it's an all-girl band.
Mm-hmm.
They had Butch Walker produced one of their albums. They got an album called like Stay the Night, Bitchin', which borderlines on like almost like a Joan Jett sound to it.
Nice.
Anyway, they did a lot of singles, and a lot of like some of them are covers. And they got a record store release called the Early Singles 1995 to 1999. These guys are one of the bands that like I'm sitting on buying their stuff because flippers still want too much for it. But the second I see some of these albums of theirs, I'll buy them immediately. I love them. They cover REO's Keep on Loving You, Kiss's Strutter, AC/DC Speeding Back to My Baby. And this is going to be 1,500 copies, RSD first, on metallic gold. And what it said in there from one of their producers was, it's on metallic gold because their album should have went gold.
Nice.
So Rolling Stones, Beggar's Banquet.
Okay.
Strong acoustic Delta blues flavor. This is the album with Street Fighting Man, Sympathy for the Devil, 9,000 copies. So like, I feel like you're gonna have to trip to not get this one.
Yeah.
Like if it's like, oh, there's gonna be stacks of them there. It's on gray, blue, and black and white swirl. This is an ode to the lyrics from the song "Salt of the Earth," and then it's 9,000 RSD exclusive. I just don't have that album, and I just love that. Rolling Stones. Temptations, All Direction. This is their album released with, this is from the 70s. 1972. Papa Was a Rolling Stone is on it.
Okay.
#1 Billboard R&B chart in 72.
The dude who wrote that died recently, and I can't remember his name, but he was an early contributor with Motown. I read a big article about him.
I love Motown.
Yeah, he he and Berry Gordy wrote a few hits together. But I remember specifically he wrote that song because that's got a cool I used to teach that bass line as one to kind of learn to get into groove.
And when you get the Motown out into the 70s, some of the stuff's a little weak, but that song's great.
Yeah.
3,000 copies RSD first. And my last one that I'm going to tell you guys about, the Verve Pipe, Villains. This is the song with the album with Freshman on it on cyan vinyl, 2,000 copies RSD first. They just played here not that long ago.
No, they're going to be playing soon. Yesterday there was a notification, 34 tickets left to see the Verve Pipe at Appleton Beer Factory.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I work, if I remember correct. Do you remember the date?
I don't know.
Let's look it up before we leave today.
I mean, that's Todd's doing, getting them there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm
Crazy
sure
Todd,
he had his hand
local
in it.
legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Local legend Todd.
Yeah.
Crazy Todd
Crazy
Van Hammond.
Todd. Yep.
Yeah.
Shout out to Todd. I've never met Todd, but I like giving people props.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I got for my RSD. Steve, what
Yeah,
do you
I got a couple here. I just looking at the list while you were going. I see Pixies are releasing a Doolittle live in Brussels, 2009. Record Store Day first, 4,000. It's a 2 times LP. I love Doolittle, man.
Classic
I love
album.
Doolittle. And then that Frank Turner, that's another 2-time LP. RSD first, only 1,500 though. And like I said, I don't know if that's going to be a U.S. release at all. I think that might just be all U.K., which sucks.
Which sucks about that is then it's usually like $25 to ship it.
Yeah,
sucks.
It's ridiculous. But Frank Black, live 2006. It just says, I don't know what album, if it's just a concert of his in 2006, doesn't say where. But who loves some Frank Black? Only 1,200, but that's an exclusive. So
prioritize what you're getting, friends.
Mm-hmm.
I took a spot. I don't have the list in front of me, so I'm like off the top of my head. But I noticed like a lot of these albums that, especially the ones I was interested in, they're live albums that are being.
It seemed like there's a lot of live albums.
There's a lot of
this
that.
time.
But Gong, if you know Gong,
A little bit.
I do not.
they're another bizarre art prog rock band.
You love you some prog rock.
I do. It's funny, like that stuff appeals to me to like try and find on vinyl as well. Like, and I saw there were some jazz records that were being released. Like there was an Archie Shepp, which would be kind of cool. Now I think there's also a Beach Boys release coming out.
I believe
maybe.
so. I think I saw that.
But yeah, I'm blanking on everything else right now because I don't have the list. But
That's okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that I wanted, but I was like, I won't listen to that enough to make that worth it.
Yeah, because every now and again, sometimes I've noticed like the Record Store Day releases it's a fairly normal price, and then some stuff is like 3 times much, or as much, and it's just like that justification thing kind of comes in. It's like I could buy this one record, and yeah, it's a great album, but like that kind of goes my budget for the day if I buy this one and one other expensive one, or I could buy more. Like I'm more of a quantity over quality, or
Quantity over quality.
I guess that's a horrible way to say it in this instance. But like, I'd rather come home with more records than just 2. In most instances, I'm sure there are records that I'm like, yep, if that's the only record I can buy today, I'm buying that one. But
yeah.
There are times
very
where
rare for me.
When I'm looking at them, I'm like, how much am I going to listen? I have to really sit down and reflect on that. I'm like, am I buying this because it's a band I like, or am I buying this because it's something I'm going to listen to?
True.
And that's what a lot of this was. Mm-hmm. And I had to be like, I won't listen to that enough. I won't listen to that enough. So yeah, that's where we shook out. So
What are you listening to these days?
what am I listening to? Well, you know what? I always put Stu on the spot, and he definitely did that for me this time.
Well, you're going through your stuff. I'll tell you what I'm listening to.
Yeah, what are you
today.
listening to,
So,
Steve?
Stu and I had an opportunity to do some live recording of a local band, a Wisconsin band, really not local to our certain area. They're from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, out on Lake Michigan area. This band called the Belle Weather. Great band. These guys, I've seen them just a whole lot because they come into town for our big music festival, Mile of Music, that we've talked about, and just kind of they'll come through town just here and there throughout the year. Usually a few times a year. They're in the valley here. My buddy Crazy Todd that we were just talking about, he'd actually just had them open for the Black Moods in his driveway. He's a big house show guy as well.
I need to meet Todd.
And so he had the Black Moods, big band, big rock band out of Phoenix, Arizona, came through, and they come to town pretty much every year to play Cheese Fest in Madison. Bratfest. There's so many Brat
Whatever,
and
you
Cheese
can't even
Fest,
tell. This is
Beer
just
Fest.
like...
I believe it's Bratfest in Madison. Big festival down there. But they were coming through, and they played Todd's house a couple times. And they came through and they did an outdoor acoustic set this year. Last year they came through and did their full rock set out in his driveway. It was just always an awesome time. So Todd had the Belle Weather open up for him, and Belle Weather's they're kind of a rocky, folky kind of band. Probably the most popular band that I can liken them to is
Belle Biv the Bow.
No.
No.
I'm going to cut out this air.
God dang it. Mumford and Sons. So
really?
The biggest band I can liken them to, that like the most popular band would be Mumford and Sons. Just kind of that lots of strings, lots of kind of Irish, Scottish kind of,
Makes you sound like
that
eclectic kind of flavor.
Yeah. I mean,
in
they've got 2 string players, a violinist and a cellist, and
an upright bassist, and they play some ukulele stuff and whatnot. Just kind of like they just have kind of an old worldly tone in a way to them.
They do, but it's not it's not like it's throwback music necessarily.
By no means. It's still kind of contemporary and modern in its own.
This was the first time I had seen them. Was when
really? Okay.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty classy.
Oh yeah, they're so tight and just so hauntingly emotive. I would say is probably a good.
Eric's got a beautiful voice.
Yeah. And so this is I believe this is the last album that they put out. It's not new by any means. It was put out recorded anyway in 2019. Let me get my notes here. September of 2019. It's 14 tracks, 48 minutes, 32 seconds. It was recorded and mixed by Shane Hochstetler at Howell Street Records in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Mastered by Carl Staff out of Chicago, Illinois. The artwork on the album is kind of neat. It's kind of if you look at the picture from afar, you can't really tell, but you look at it close, and it looks like it's got like that 3D look of an oil painting. And
that is a cool cover.
And in the notes, it does say that it's an original painting by Sally Van Driest. And basically it's just it's kind of a tree that looks like there's like kind of getting blown by the wind, and it's just like a lot of movement and flowing and kind of like pink and purpley kind of
we should
colors.
Just include a picture.
Yeah, I'll throw up a picture of it on the Instagrams, and actually the vinyl is really pretty too. It's actually a clear vinyl, and it's got kind of like a splatter added into it of the same kind of color tones.
Hold it up. I'll take a picture.
So here we're getting some photos of it right now. But real pretty vinyl. So I will quick read Belle Weather's description of themselves, taken directly from Spotify. The Belle Weather is a hurricane. We are the heavy, rhythmic storm of an acoustic guitar, the deep pulse of an upright bass, and the soaring elegance of cello, violin, and voice. We are the eye of the storm and the damage done. Equal parts modern folk and indie rock, a fusion of inspired anthems and the art of simple storytelling. Over the years, we've taken a great many influences and blended them into a sound that is uniquely our own. We've built a reputation by approaching every stage we can find with a rare combination of gritty, sweat-drenched energy and honest, heartfelt sonic grace. We love doing what we do, and we feel very fortunate to have a fan base that is as musically adventurous as we've always tried to be. And when I read that just to kind of maybe get some idea, some ideas on ways to describe them, and I was like, actually that is perfect. It's just a perfect description of them. They're just a great live performance. There's just a ton of energy and a ton of chemistry when you see these cats live. And this album, it comes out just like it. Just like their live performance does. I mean, that energy is there. It's great.
Where can our listeners pick up a copy of this vinyl treasure?
I'm sure you can go to thebellweather.com. If you follow them on Facebook or Instagram, I believe they have a Twitter account as well. And I'm sure they'll have links to all of that. So on this particular recording, the Belle Weather is Eric Cox, guitar and lead vocals. Thea Voras plays cello. Marissa Shepard on violin, and Tom Abromaitis playing upright bass, and Shane Hetchler percussion. Shane was also the producer at the recording studio. But their current upright bass player is a gentleman. I believe he just started playing with them 4 or 5 weeks ago. Even I'm talking to him. Corey Ripley is their current bass player. And the album title, which I don't think I mentioned yet, is Don't Let Your Blood Run Still. And that line comes from a song on there. I believe it's the 4th track on the album called Threadbare. Some of my favorite, two of my favorite songs on here are Catching Mercury and that song Threadbare. But also they do a really great cover of Pearl Jam's Elderly Woman Behind the Counter. And I didn't even realize just by title that was a song
Yeah,
or a cover until I recognized it. And I'm listening. I'm like, wait a minute, I know this song. It's basically the Pearl Jam song you all know, where the chorus is "Hearts and thoughts they fade away." So I'm sure if any Pearl Jam fans out there,
it's like the one that goes hero, 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 hero.
they all do that, man.
Is that where you sing with a pickle in your mouth?
Yeah. Hearts and thoughts they fade.
Can't find another man.
Fade away. Actually, that wasn't too bad.
That's pretty good.
I think you
Maybe me and you will have to do a cover of that, Stu.
I think you should.
We'll do a cover of the Belle Weather's cover.
Perfect, and we'll both do our veteran impersonations.
And we'll have James like play horrible rhythm on the drums.
And then the photo is going to be all of us under the covers of blankets.
Shit-faced drunk.
Like, and we'll have it tucked up where people can't tell if we're naked under the covers or not.
Oh man!
But spoiler alert, we will be.
That'll be like three little tents.
We're naked right now.
Shh.
Please join us again in 2 weeks for the exciting conclusion of this double-length episode that may or may not span the duration of Steve's absence as he searches for himself in the wilds of Montana.